Welcome back to Miss Kulala's Mystical Musings. Today, let's talk about the VIA Lascivia. All right, let's get some light on the subject. The VIA Lascivia. Now, the VIA Lascivia runs like this. Do not get the VIA Lascivia confused with support lines. These are support lines, the lines that go up and down like this. These are support lines. The VIA Lascivia are these. They are these slashes at the bottom. And they can run all across the bottom of your hand this way. Now, I don't have all of these, but I'm showing you what they look like. So, and to pay attention if it is in your right or left hand. So the VIA Lascivia is a minor line, and it does run across the bottom portion. And it is very specific in the way that in how it looks. You know, it's a curved line. It's at the bottom of your palm, very close to the wrist. Typically crossing or weaving through these areas. So you're not going to find it up here. It's very specific to these areas. So because of the VIA Lascivia not being like some of the minor lines that I talk about in my book, you know, we have the Ring of Solomon. We have the Ring of Saturn. We have the Line of Apollo. We have a lot of minor lines that show up consistently in specific areas. This one is variable because it can land in Venus, Neptune, or the moon. And because of this, its meaning is entirely dependent upon where it travels. So this line doesn't indicate indulgence or excess by default. It reflects where desire becomes attachment and where control, fantasy, or dependency may form. So at its core, the VIA Lascivia represents compulsion, attachment, the urge to soothe, satisfy, or control through the experience. It shows where someone may rely too heavily on a particular source of fulfillment, often unconsciously. This reliance can be emotional, physical, mental, or symbolic. So let's read the VIA Lascivia by territory. So if it's running through Venus, this travels through or strongly influences the Mount of Venus. It reflects dependency on physical or relational fulfillment. This may show as codependency in relationships, attachment to love, comfort, or affection over identification with physical pleasure or material security, difficulty separating your self-worth from being wanted or needed. Again, these are the lines of support, and I will talk about these also eventually, but right now we are talking about the VIA Lascivia, and they are at the bottom. They start down here. Now, they could start up a little higher, but they're still going to look like this. I have seen them like start in here and kind of go like this. So these are the type of lines you're looking for. They can be a part of another line. But if they are consistent in starting down towards the bottom and ending somewhere, you know, like that, you're looking at a VIA lascivia. So the light expression, so say it's not a very deep line, is something that should be taken into consideration, because that means that it's, by it being faint, means that it's not as a major concern, I would think. It's the deeper it is, shows the more intense addiction that you might have in that area. So the lighter expression also, like it's not always bad, right? I just got done talking about potential, but you are potentially this way. It's neither good or bad. That is how I see it. It just means it's something to be acknowledged. Deep capacity for love could be a sensual appreciation. It can also mean devotion. Now, there's always a shadow to everything, so it could also mean emotional enmeshment, overgiving, reliance on external validation, right? It's misplaced, right? We don't understand. So it's not about excess pleasure all the time. It is about seeking safety through connection. And, you know, after a good palm reading, sometimes shadow work is necessary at a point, because, you know, we want to understand why we have these patterns, right? They manifest here to show us unconsciously that we are doing these things. Again, we are potentially seeing these things. So the VIA lascivia running through Neptune, which I do have one that runs from Venus to Neptune. So when the VIA lascivia moves through Neptune, the line takes on a very different quality. Here it reflects obsession with truth. So we are talking about Neptune. Neptune is right here. Some people have a divot here, and Neptune isn't big. Mine looks like one big mount. But this is Venus, this is the moon, and this is Neptune. So it does reflect obsession with truth, mystery, or hidden knowledge, the compulsion to uncover what is concealed, addiction to fantasy, illusion, or control through knowing, or difficulty tolerating uncertainty. And I will tell you, for anyone that knows me very well or has had a relationship with me, no matter what it is, usually my daughters, they know that's true. This can manifest as spiritual or occult fixation, needing answers at all costs, losing grounding in pursuit of revelation. Yes to all of that for myself, yes. So the light expression of that, like, you know, there's a dual side to everything, right? There's a light and a dark to everything. So the light expression would be profound intuition, depth of insight, and truth seeking. Yes to all that. The shadow expression of that is loss of boundaries, mental obsession, and escapism. And yes to that. I have been right there. So now the VIA lascivia running through the moon, that's this area. These are the lines that you find down here. This is the moon right here. This is the moon right here. So the VIA lascivia running down here, this is emotional dependency. And it can show up as identification with emotional states, attachment to suffering or victimhood, reliance on mood, imagination, or emotional narrative, and difficulty releasing those emotional stories that we tell ourselves also, right? So this is where the line might reflect an addiction to a feeling, romanticizing pain, emotional cycles that feel difficult to exit. So again, if we look at the light and the shadow aspect of that, we can see in the light aspect, we see emotional depth, empathy, and imagination. Now, the shadow side of that would be emotional looping, avoidance of responsibility, and fantasy as a refuge. So here, control is attempted through emotion rather than action. We see that a lot. That these are the people that might leave you a little bit drained energetically when you are in a conversation that may be going south sometimes. You know, you feel that, right? Again, this information is for you. I'm not shouting it out and saying, you know, hey, take a look at your neighbor. It might make sense. No, this is just for you. It's to help you and to be honest with yourself, okay? Again, let's see. So we talked about Venus, we talked about Neptune and the moon. So a blended expression, if you've got, again, like I told you, I have Venus and Neptune. This could be romantic idealization, spiritualized relationships, love fused with fantasy. Yes to all that. Neptune and the moon. I don't have anything like that. But Neptune and the moon, so that would be like a line from here to here. That would show emotional mysticism, intuitive overload, and difficulty separating truth from feeling. Venus to the moon. So that would be a really long line like this. That would be emotional attachment rooted in comfort, nostalgia, or family dynamics. So the longer and deeper the line, the more entrenched the pattern would probably be. So again, a deep VIA lascivia suggests strong attachment patterns that may require conscious awareness. A faint or broken VIA lascivia often reflects sensitivity without full identification. It's, again, I think it might denote even a lighter expression. As with all the lines, depth does show investment, but not inevitability. You know what I mean? It's like, I think the lighter it is shows either it's something you worked on or it's just becoming apparent, or it's something that might be developing. So I think that the VIA lascivia does not indicate moral failing. I think it indicates where desire might need some regulation, where awareness is needed, and where balance might restore your freedom. When supported by a strong Saturn, Saturn is up here. This is the Mount of Saturn. If it's supported by a strong Mars, again, this is Mars. That's inner. This is outer. That's the Mount of Saturn. Or a grounded thumb. The shadow expressions often soften significantly because Mars is your warrior. Saturn is your moral compass. A strong thumb would be not overly generous. You know what I mean? It's somebody that is able to rein it in. Over generous means somebody that has a very wide gap in between here. And a short thumb might indicate a bit of a fiery temperament, a practical temperament. The longer the thumb, more idealistic. So those are things to consider, and it will help balance those things out. So if you notice a VIA lascivia in your hand, just ask yourself, where does the line travel? What does that area represent in my life? And what do I turn to when I feel unsafe, uncertain, or out of control? Because awareness loosens the attachment and choice restores the balance. So you let me know what you think about that. I think that everyone voted, and this was the highest one, or, you know, the largest percentage of people wanted to know about the VIA lascivia. I plan on talking about all of these things eventually. So, yeah, I think that these can only be helpful. And the more, like, again, if you come to a reading and I'm sitting here telling you, well, you might be addicted to this or this, you're going to be like, But when you're doing this for yourself, you can be honest, and it's nobody else's business. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to prove anything to anyone. This is just for your awareness. But learning to be honest with yourself and identifying, knowing yourself is, to me, a beautiful thing, and it's no one else's business. You know what I mean? When we're triggered, it's because, you know, usually somebody says something that there's something in it that you feel like might be true. Like they're saying something about you that might be true. Well, when you know yourself, no one can do that to you anymore. You'd be like, okay, yeah, what's your point? Or, well, I know that's not true, so you must be talking about yourself. And usually people are. When we mirror things, or when we talk about other people, it's because we see these things. It's coming from ourselves. We don't really know how anyone else thinks, feels, or what they're doing, period. We just don't. And so it's always a projection from ourselves. So I think that knowing yourself is that important. So it helps us to play well together. I know. Not to be confused, let me tell you real quick. There is a line that shows up in the hand. It's not that thick, obviously. But when I first started learning palmistry, I had learned that this was the VIA lascivia, but this is not the VIA lascivia. It's just a simple deep line in your moon area that looks like that. And it can be confused with a travel line. But when I see it, it's deep. It almost like... It's so deep that it looks like somebody like cut into your hand and left a deep scar there. Where a travel line is just kind of, they're noticeable, they're faint, but they're not like a line like this. They're just like faint, you know. This line right here is called the line of intensity, and it is very specific to the addiction that it represents. So let me know in the comments if you are interested in hearing about the line of intensity, because it was confused with the VIA lascivia, but it is not the same. I think maybe some palm readers might read it that way, but I do not. I do know the difference, and I would love to share that with you. If you want to hear about that next, let me know, because we also talked about the M and the Mystic Cross and the Girdle of Venus. So, yeah, let me know in the comments. What do you want to know about next? And oh my goodness, I almost forgot. The difference between the left and the right hand. Remember to consider that if you are dominant hand, if your dominant hand is where you are seeing the VIA lascivia, that means that it is something that you struggle with in the present. If it's something that you see in your non-dominant hand, then it is something that you may have struggled with either in a past life or in the past. But it is potentially something that you still may struggle with. So line intensity, what hand it's in, and if you're ambidextrous, it just means that you are potentially showing signs of that. And that, I just wanted to add that in there, because pay attention when you are taking notes, or if it's just something you are observing in the moment. I'm right-handed, so my VIA lascivia actually runs right here, right over my Neptune, between my Venus and my Neptune. I'll draw it in. I'll show you real quick. So actually two of them. One right there and one right here. And it connects to my fate line, which is, with this being my fate line, it means that it is part of what makes me successful. So when we talk about a light and a shadow, I can use it for good, and it's part of what makes me successful. Okay, again, we talked about what it means to have it in Neptune. It's that addiction to truth seeking. It's addiction to knowing things, to control the information, right? Coming out of Venus does show some of my romantic tendencies. So yes, now I would say deep in Venus, like over here, would be more of a relationship thing. But here they kind of go together. You know, it is a very physical thing for me, but it's also a truth-seeking thing, to have control of the truth. And I am really bad. My sister everyone says I should have been a spy or worked for the CIA or whatever, because I'm very good at uncovering things. So I may not tell you I know, but I know. Or I will find out. Yeah, that's it. So yes, I just wanted to, because I forgot to talk about the left and the right. So yeah, it makes a big difference. So I'll end it on that note. There's going to be a lot of editing here. Anyway, thanks again, and we will talk soon.